Hi everyone, I'm going to go through the muscles of the back. This video will include a discussion on the trapezius, Latissimus dorsi, Supraspinatus, Infraspinatus, Subscapularis, the Rhomboideus, major and minor. Your professor might have you just know them as the Rhomboids, quote unquote, teres major, teres minor, and Erector spinae. Let's first go through with the trapezius. As you can see from this video, the trapezius will depress and rotate and retract the scapula. From this video, you're seeing how the trapezius depresses the scapula. It would also extend the head. So what you are not seeing here is the ability for the trapezius to lift your head up off of your chest. If you were falling asleep and looking forward, the trapezius could also extend your head. It also does elevate the shoulders as well. So you can see here, I hope, as I highlight, the trapezius looks a lot like a trapezoid. And that is the trapezius. It's a superficial muscle. Let's move on. Its origin is the occipital bone, spines of C7, and all the thoracic vertebrae. It inserts on the clavicle, spine, and acromion of the scapula. Let's move on to the Latissimus dorsi. So here is the Latissimus dorsi. I'm highlighting it here. All of this part 2 is part of the latissimus. It's just not the fleshy muscle part, rather it's the tendon of it. The latissimus has its origin on the lower 6 thoracic and lumbar vertebrae, as well as the iliac crest. And we can see that down here where I said we can see the tendon of the Latissimus dorsi. It inserts on the intertubercular groove of the humerus. So what you can't see very well from this picture is that the latissimus goes underneath your armpit anteriorly, wraps around your humerus, and inserts on the intertubercular groove of the humerus. So it goes under your armpit and then inserts. Because of that, its action allows it to extend, adduct, meaning add together, and medially rotate the arm, meaning the humerus. Can you name a synergist to the Latissimus dorsi? It is the teres major. You'll see that muscle in just a moment. Now let's cover the supraspinatus. It is a muscle that is deep to the trapezius. On the right side of this model, we see superficial muscles. On the left side, we see deeper muscles. That's a C. Deep. So number 2 is pointing to the trapezius. Number 4 is pointing to the Latissimus dorsi, which we just covered. Number 1 is pointing to the supraspinatus. As we move forward, number 7 is pointing to the infraspinatus. And as we keep going on later in the class, you're going to see number 5 and number 6 as part of the leg muscles, not part of the back at this point. So the supraspinatus has its origin in the supraspinous fossa of the scapula, and it inserts on the greater tubercle of the humerus. Its action is to abduct and stabilize the humerus. Next, let's move on to the infraspinatus. It is deep to the trapezius. I'm going to back up again to show you the infraspinatus. In this picture, the infraspinatus is being pointed to by the arrow for number 7. The infraspinatus can also be seen in this picture. It again is more deep to the trapezius. So in this picture, I was showing you the Latissimus Dorsi, and you can also see the trapezius. So let me highlight the trapezius in green. Let me now show you the Latissimus Dorsi, which I have already shown you here in blue. Let me show you the infraspinatus, which is deep to the trapezius in a different color. Let me pick a purple, I guess. I hope this shows up. The infraspinatus is this part. That's the infraspinatus. So again, on the right side, let me show you the infraspinatus. And again, it's deep to the trapezius, meaning its origin is deep to the trapezius. Again, the infraspinatus, the origin is the infraspinous fossa of the scapula, and it inserts on the greater tubercle of the humerus. So here's a good picture of the infraspinatus, and you can also see it here with our shoulder model. All of this here is the infraspinatus that I'm showing you with the purple color. So the infraspinatus, again, shown here as number 7 on our model. Its origin is the infraspinous fossa of the scapula. It inserts in the greater tubercle of the humerus, and it laterally rotates the humerus. It is a synergist to the teres minor, and I will be showing you a picture of the teres minor in just a moment. Our next muscle is the subscapularis. And if you look at the picture on the left, you are seeing a skeleton facing you. And this picture of the subscapularis is showing you the person's left subscapularis. So this is a muscle that originates in the subscapular fossa, and it inserts on the lesser tubercle of the humerus. And its job is to medially rotate and stabilize the shoulder. You should, at this point, know the muscles of the rotator cuff. They are the supraspinatus, infraspinatus, the subscapularis, and the teres minor. Again, those are the muscles of the rotator cuff. The subscapularis is found here in the subscapular fossa, and it inserts on the lesser tubercle of the humerus. Its action is to medially rotate and stabilize the shoulder. So again, I'm trying to show you on this side where the subscapularis is. The other muscles that you're seeing in this picture are the supraspinatus, infraspinatus, and teres minor. The reason why I am showing you all 4 of these muscles on this slide is to remind you that all 4 of those muscles are part of what we call the rotator cuff. The next muscle I want to tell you about is the rhomboids, the rhomboideus major and minor. Your professor might say to you, just know them as the rhomboids. But there is a minor, and here it is shown here in this blue highlight. It's smaller, and here is the rhomboideus major. We can also see them deep to the trapezius. So the rhomboideus minor and major are deep to the trapezius. If you are looking at this picture on the right side, here, we're seeing superficial muscle, trapezius, and then deep to it, we're seeing the rhomboideus minor and major. Their origin is the spinous process for vertebrae C7 through T5. Again, the rhomboideus, there's a minor and a major. Your professor might want you to know them separately or just collectively together as the rhomboids. The insertion is the medial border of the scapula, and its job, its action, is to stabilize the scapula, retract, and rotate the scapula downward. Our next muscle is the teres major. On the picture on your left hand of the screen, you're seeing the teres major next to the subscapularis. So this muscle here is the subscapularis. I'm just going to abbreviate. Oh, no, I'll just write it out. And then the teres major is shown here at the end of the red arrow. The teres major has the origin of the inferior angle of the scapula, and it inserts onto the lesser tubercle of the humerus. I oftentimes say to students, big has to go to small. Teres major, big, has to go to small, meaning the lesser tubercle of the humerus. With the next muscle, teres minor, it's smaller, but it gets to go big. It inserts on the greater tubercle. The picture on the right is again showing you the teres major, and like the Latissimus dorsi, it goes underneath your armpit in order to insert on the humerus. It goes under the armpit. Therefore, it is a synergist to the Latissimus dorsi. Its action is to, like the Latissimus dorsi, its action is to extend, adduct, and medially rotate the arm. That's the same action as Latissimus dorsi. Now we're on the teres minor. Here's another picture of our shoulder model. You can see that students have labeled the top muscle here as the supraspinatus. This big muscle shown here is the deltoid. And then we can see the teres major coming off of the inferior angle and the teres minor. Over here on the right picture, we're seeing a star on the teres minor. The teres minor is part of the rotator cuff muscle group. The teres minor has its origin on the lateral border of the scapula. It inserts on the greater tubercle of the humerus, and that's why I said little gets to go to big. Teres minor, smaller muscle than the teres major, but it gets to insert on the greater tubercle. And its action, it's a synergist to the infraspinatus. So what does the infraspinatus do? It laterally rotates the humerus. And so that's what the teres minor will be doing. Our last muscle for the back muscles would be the Erector spinae group. There are 3 muscles that go with the Erector spinae group. And I remember it as I love spaghetti. It stands for iliocostalis, longissimus, say that 3 times, and the spinalis. All 3 together are the Erector spinae group, iliocostalis, longissimus, and spinalis. Their job is to extend your back. Extension at the hip is another way of saying that. Extends your back at the thigh. Your thigh is where it articulates with the hip joint, of course. So what is an antagonistic muscle group to your Erector spinae? The abdominal muscles. They cause flexion at the hip. So again, Erector spinae muscles, you need to know them as a group. And you can see them here on the picture on the left, the Erector spinae. And on the right, I have a star on part of the Erector spinae, but let me highlight. All of those muscles that I'm highlighting with my blue pen are part of the Erector spinae group. They are deep to the trapezius. And let me show you again the trapezius. You can see that there. And then superior to the Erector spinae group that I'm showing you here on the right. So I'm just going to put ES for Erector spinae. Up here in purple, let me change color, you're seeing the rhomboids, the Rhomboideus minor and major. Again, they are deep to the trapezius. All right, that concludes our lecture on the muscles of the back.